Hey everyone, staying consistent may sound easy, but why do we all struggle with it? Whether it's sticking to a workout routine, eating healthy, or even just keeping up with a new hobby, it's tough to stay on track. On a more serious note, how about the opportunity costs of not being consistent? For example, lack of achievement, damaged self esteem, and even more so, potential health and financial consequences. There is actually some solid science behind lack of consistency. Let's look into some of the things we don't even realize that are holding us back. Let's start with psychology behind why do we struggle with consistency. One of the big reasons has to do with something called behavioral inertia. This is a concept from psychology that basically means we have a natural resistance to change. Our brains love routines because they require less mental energy. When you're trying to start something new, like exercising regularly or eating healthy, your brain is like, wow, it is different and hard. Let's go back to the easy stuff. So it's not that you're lazy, it's just that your brain is wired to take the path of least resistance. Another thing that makes consistency tough is how habits work. Habits are basically shortcuts your brain uses to save time and energy. The more you do something, the more ingrained it becomes, like carving a path in the woods. The tricky part is that if you've got a habit, let's say skipping workouts or reaching out for junk food when you're stressed, those pathways are already well traveled. So when you try to start a new habit like exercising regularly or eating better, your brain has to fight against those old habits that are deeply ingrained. That's why it feels like an uphill battle since your brain finds comfort in those habits. How about brushing your teeth? You don't even think about it anymore, right? That's because it's a habit you've been doing for years. The same thing can happen with working out or eating healthy, but it takes time. Research from the European Journal of Social Psychology suggests that on average, it takes about 66 days to form a new habit. And that's just average. Some people might need more time, others less. Here is another thing we don't always think about. Our brains are wired for instant gratification. We are programmed to want rewards now, then later. So when you're trying to be consistent with something like working out or saving money, it can be hard because the rewards like getting fit or building up savings are in the future. Meanwhile, the temptation to skip the workout or splurge on something feels good right now. This is something psychologists call the present bias. It's a big reason why we often struggle to stay consistent with long-term goals. Here is something that might surprise you. The way you see yourself, your identity, has a huge impact on your ability to stay consistent. If you have always seen yourself as someone who's bad at sticking to things, that belief is going to mess you every time you try to make a change. It's like there is this little voice in your head saying, why bother? You're just gonna quit anyway. This is where the idea of cognitive dissonance comes in. When your actions don't match your beliefs, it creates this mental discomfort. So if you believe you're someone who can't stick to things, but you're trying to start a new habit, your brain is going to resist because it doesn't fit with your self-image. Another example is, let's say you want to be healthy, but if you identify yourself as a binge eater, there is always a high chance that it wouldn't work. Another sneaky thing that messes with consistency is your home environment. There are triggers all around you that can either help or hurt your efforts to stay consistent. And most of the time, we don't even notice them. For example, if you're trying to eat healthier, but your kitchen is full of junk food, that's a constant temptation. Or if you're trying to get better at focusing on work, but your phone is buzzing with notifications all day, it's hard to stay on track. These triggers can derail you without you even realizing, making it harder for you to stay consistent. Lastly, stress and decision fatigues are also important factors. When you're stressed out, your brain goes into survival mode, and consistency goes out the window. You're more likely to fall back on old habits because they are easier and take less mental effort. And decision fatigue is also a real issue. When you've had to make a bunch of decisions all day, your brain gets tired and it becomes harder to make good choices. That's why you might start the day with healthy intentions, but end up eating junk food or skipping your evening workout. It's not that you're weak, it's just that your brain is tired. So yeah, staying consistent is hard, but now we know some of the reasons why. It's not just about willpower, but also having an understanding of how our brains work and the things that can throw us off track. By making small changes, we can train our brain, which in turn would make consistency a lot easier. We can start by setting up an environment that supports our goals, but it's also important to track our progress, to reinforce the new identity, and giving ourselves some slack when things don't go perfectly. By the end of the day, it's all about making progress, one small step at a time, and not about being perfect.